takes a long time to plan. Because of this, there are only certain windows we can go to Mars. And then it takes a lot of energy to get to Mars and to get all the weight into the atmosphere. And so you have to plan, like, even once we have the technology, you have to plan the trip 15 years in advance of getting there. Because, first of all, it takes 2 years to get to Mars.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Or something like that.
2 years?
Right, working through the details of building all the specific technology takes 15 years or 20 years. And so the biggest problem has been what's called a heavy lift launch vehicle.
Okay.
So they built that for Apollo. Okay. But then we basically, and by the way, this is happening. I think SpaceX someone is building now finally a heavy lift launch vehicle.
Okay.
But
for
I think
Mars?
it's SpaceX. Well, not for Mars yet, it's to return to the moon.
Okay.
But we basically threw away the technology that we had in the 60s for the Saturn V rocket. Because what I've been told is when they were trying to get the space shuttle passed, if they still had the technology of the Saturn V, they were worried that if they still had the technology of the Saturn V, then eventually the space shuttle would get canceled. And they didn't want the space shuttle canceled. And so they at some point got rid of all of our know-how that allowed us to build the Saturn V rockets. And so the rockets we've had literally are like a quarter as powerful as the Saturn V. And so, or even I forget, it's like a massive delta. And it takes a lot, you have to get a lot of mass into orbit. And it takes, like, it gets really complicated if you don't have a heavy lift launch vehicle, because then you have to assemble everything in space. Because to get, you have to do like 10 flights.
That'd be crazy.
And then put everything together like an erector set.
Yeah, no
versus
thanks.
doing it in 3 flights or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's for the return to the moon. They're now building a heavy lift launch vehicle. But now let me get to the key about why it's a problem. It takes so long it will always extend beyond one administration.
What do you mean one administration?
One presidential administration.
Okay.
A president is president for 8 years. Okay. Now, if the same party wins, which often doesn't happen, right? If you think of it, it is quite common that you'll have a president for 8 years and then the other party takes over.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of money to go to Mars.
Yes.
And so if President X says, we're going to Mars, right?
Yeah.
Does a big speech, puts all the money in the budget, right? Starts the team going to Mars. Then 8 years, they're not in anymore. Somebody else comes in. And it's the other party. And now that other party is building their budget.
Yeah.
And the Mars trip will never be that second president's. It'll always be remembered as Obama's Mars or whoever.
Because he started it.
Right, because he started it. So when the new president comes in, and they're putting their budget together, and if it was a small amount of money, it wouldn't matter. But it's a large amount of money that you need. I mean, it's nothing compared to the defense budget, but it's still much larger than what NASA's normal budget is. And so when they're building their budget, they'll just be like, no, this isn't mine.
Mars.
This isn't mine. Right?
So then they'll totally...
And since it takes 15 years, it always, in fact, the space shuttle almost got canceled. And the reason it didn't, it actually would have been good if it got canceled. The space shuttle was actually a big mistake. It took us backwards. But the reason it didn't get canceled was because they had contracts in all 50 states. So that every state senator had something to lose. That actually, they intentionally made sure the contract was spread across all 50 states.
Oh my God.
And it almost got canceled, and it passed by like 1 vote or something like that.
No,
But they intentionally made it that senators wouldn't cancel it because they would get pushback.
So that's a little manipulative. And that didn't even work out.
No.
Oh no. I think we need some Mars lovers, no ego presidents, and then we can go to Mars. Surely that'll happen.